Why does the coldest ocean on Earth grow the biggest bugs? Not the biggest fish or the biggest whales. The biggest creepy crawlies. Sea spiders wider than a dinner plate, worms longer than a grown man is tall, and crustaceans the size of a bread loaf. The Southern Ocean is running an experiment in supersizing that started millions of years ago, and the results are genuinely unsettling. If you'd asked anyone in the early 2000s about the creatures crawling around the Antarctic seafloor, they would have told you it was a dead zone. Freezing water, months of total darkness, almost no food sinking from the surface. And yet biologists who dropped cameras and trawl nets into those waters kept hauling up the same impossible thing. Animals that looked normal in every way except their size. Isopods the length of a shoe. Ribbon worms stretching past 2 meters. Sea spiders with legs spanning wider than a large pizza. Not one freak specimen. Entire populations. The phenomenon has a name. Polar gigantism. And it is not limited to one group of animals. It shows up across crustaceans, worms, sea spiders, sponges, and echinoderms. The Southern Ocean produces oversized versions of creatures that in warmer waters fit comfortably on a fingertip. Take the sea spiders. In tropical and temperate oceans, most sea spiders are tiny, a few millimeters across, barely visible without a magnifying glass. In the waters around Antarctica, the genus Colossendae includes species with leg spans reaching 70 centimeters. According to Guinness World Records, Colossendae colossia holds the record for the largest sea spider ever measured. These animals have no lungs and no gills. They breathe by absorbing oxygen directly through their exoskeleton, and their guts extend into their legs, because their bodies are too narrow to hold all their organs. Scale one up to the size of a dinner plate, and you get something that looks like it belongs in a horror film. But in Antarctic waters, they are everywhere. According to researchers at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, roughly 20% of all known sea spider species on Earth live in Antarctic and subantarctic waters. The Southern Ocean is not just home to a few oversized outliers. It is the global center of sea spider diversity. The ribbon worm Parvulaceae corrugatus is another example. In most oceans, ribbon worms are thin, pale, and short, rarely longer than a few centimeters. Parvulaceae corrugatus, living on the Antarctic seafloor, reaches length beyond 2 meters. According to research published in the Journal of Experimental Biology, this species is an aggressive scavenger, capable of detecting dead fish and seal carcasses from a distance and converging on them in large numbers. A single whale carcass on the Antarctic seafloor can attract hundreds of these worms, tangling over each other in a slow-motion feeding frenzy. They are not passive bottom dwellers. They hunt by chemical scent, tracking dissolved nutrients through the freezing water column the way a bloodhound follows a trail on land. Then there are the amphipods. In most of the world's oceans, amphipods are the size of a grain of rice. In the deep Southern Ocean, the species Alicella gigantea, documented by Discover Wildlife, reaches 34 centimeters. That is an amphipod the size of a loaf of bread. It is a scavenger, like its smaller relatives everywhere else on the planet, but scaled up to a degree that makes it look like a different kind of animal entirely. So why does this happen? Why does extreme cold produce extreme size? The answer starts with oxygen. Cold water holds more dissolved oxygen than warm water. This is basic physics. As water temperature drops, gas molecules dissolve more readily and stay dissolved longer. The Southern Ocean, with surface temperatures hovering just above freezing year-round, is one of the most oxygen-rich marine environments on the planet. That matters because of how these animals breathe. Sea spiders, amphipods, worms, and most marine invertebrates do not have lungs. They absorb oxygen directly across their body surfaces, through their skin, their exoskeletons, or specialized thin membranes. In warm, oxygen-poor water, this limits how big they can grow. A larger body needs more oxygen, but the surface area available for gas exchange does not scale at the same rate as body volume. At some point, the animal simply cannot absorb enough oxygen to keep its tissues alive. It hits a ceiling. Cold, oxygen-saturated water raises that ceiling dramatically. According to a study published by the Royal Society, researchers tested the oxygen temperature hypothesis directly by measuring metabolic rates and oxygen availability across marine invertebrates at different latitudes. Their findings confirmed the pattern. In colder water, animals need less oxygen per gram of body weight because their metabolisms run slower. and at the same time, more oxygen is available in the water around them. The combination of reduced demand and increased supply creates a metabolic window that allows growth far beyond what is possible in warmer seas. Think of it like fuel economy. A cold engine burns less fuel per kilometer, and the gas station it is parked next to has unlimited supply. Under those conditions, you can build a bigger engine than you ever could in a hot climate with scarce fuel. The oxygen explanation accounts for the mechanism, but it does not explain why evolution pushed these animals toward larger size in the first place. Availability is one thing. Actually growing bigger is another. Something had to make largeness advantageous. One factor is the scarcity of food in Antarctic waters during winter. The Southern Ocean is enormously productive in summer, when phytoplankton blooms fuel a food chain that supports everything from krill to blue whales. But in winter the sun barely rises, photosynthesis shuts down, and the supply of sinking organic matter drops to almost nothing. Animals that live on the seafloor face months of famine between seasonal pulses of food. Larger body size helps survive that famine. A bigger animal stores more energy reserves relative to its metabolic rate. It can go longer between meals. In an environment where food arrives in unpredictable bursts separated by months of nothing, being large is a survival buffer. Smaller animals starve faster. Larger ones wait it out. If you are finding this interesting, there are more animal deep dives like this one on the channel every week. Another factor is predation pressure, or rather the lack of it. The Southern Ocean's seafloor has far fewer crushing predators, like the crabs and lobsters that dominate warmer continental shelves. Antarctic waters are too cold for most decapod crustaceans to survive, and the Southern Ocean's near-freezing temperatures exclude them from the deep shelf entirely. Without shell-crushing predators patrolling the bottom, soft-bodied and thin-shelled invertebrates face less pressure to stay small and agile. They can afford to grow slowly and grow large because nothing is there to eat them before they reach full size. The scale worm Eulogisca gigantea is a good example of what happens when those pressures align. Most scale worms in warmer oceans are a centimeter or two long. Eulogisca gigantea, living on the Antarctic seafloor, reaches around 20 centimeters and has a set of golden, iridescent bristles and a retractable jaw structure that looks like something from a science fiction film. It is a predator, feeding on smaller invertebrates, and its size gives it dominance over prey that in warmer waters would be its equals. If you saw one in a rock pool in Florida, you would assume it was a completely different class of animal. But it is the same body plan as its tropical cousins, just scaled up by an order of magnitude. The timeline for this experiment stretches back millions of years. Antarctica was not always frozen. For most of the last 100 million years, the continent was warm, forested, and connected to South America by a land bridge. Dinosaurs roamed it. Trees grew near the South Pole. The surrounding waters were temperate, full of the same kinds of marine life you would find off the coast of modern-day Chile or New Zealand. Tens of millions of years ago, that land bridge broke apart. The Drake Passage opened, and the Antarctic Circumpolar Current formed, a massive ring of ocean current that sealed Antarctica off from warmer waters to the north. Temperatures plummeted. Subtropical forests gave way to ice sheets kilometers thick. And the marine fauna trapped inside that ring of cold current began adapting to conditions that existed nowhere else on Earth. Millions of years of isolation in near-freezing, oxygen-rich water with seasonal feast or famine food cycles and almost no crushing predators. That is the recipe. Polar gigantism is not one adaptation. It is the accumulated result of multiple pressures all pointing in the same direction, toward bigger bodies. And the experiment is still running. The Southern Ocean today remains the coldest, most oxygen-saturated major ocean on the planet. Its seafloor communities are among the least disturbed by human activity. The giant sea spiders, the 2-meter worms, the breadloaf amphipods, they are not relics of a past age. They are alive right now, crawling across the Antarctic mud in water so cold it would kill a tropical fish in minutes. But there is a catch. The same cold water that enables polar gigantism also makes these animals vulnerable to warming. As ocean temperatures rise, dissolved oxygen levels drop. Metabolic rates increase. The precise conditions that allow oversized invertebrates to survive begin to erode. A sea spider that breathes through its skin in oxygen-rich water near 0 degrees may not be able to breathe at all in water 2 or 3 degrees warmer. The margin is that thin. and warming is already altering Antarctic waters. As sea temperatures rise, predator species once absent from these waters have been reported moving toward colder latitudes. If crushing predators return to these ecosystems, the soft-bodied giants that evolved without them will face a threat they have no defense against. The Southern Ocean has been stable for millions of years. That stability is no longer guaranteed. And the creatures that evolved to exploit it, the largest invertebrates on the planet, have no backup plan. If you want more stories like this, there are plenty on the channel.